podcast. I am your host, Michelle Gunn, and I am the founder of Cultivate and Thrive. I'm a self actualization and mindset coach. I help professional Christian moms thrive in their reclaimed value as they cultivate a fulfilling and purposeful life. In these episodes, you will hear me talk about what makes you you, how to find your value, how to cultivate your value, looking for your purpose, ways to build faith, and many more topics to build you up and help you lead a purposeful life. Many times my episodes will be solo. I welcome participation in the comment section, and occasionally I'll have a special guest that has something special to share. I invite you to let me know if there's topics you want to hear about or guests you'd like to see on my show. You can send me a message through my website, michellegunn.com. That's 1L, 2 N's, michellegunn.com. You can send me a DM. You can send an email to cultivateandthrive@gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find my coaching business, Cultivate and Thrive, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Welcome to today's episode. Hello, everyone. I want to start off before I get into this episode, Empowered by Faith, Navigating Stress as Women. On a side note, I did get a message from one of my connections on LinkedIn as I was sending invites out because it was to a man, and he said, "Are you sure you want me to come? As this is for women." Many of the topics that I cover are really inclusive of all genders and relates to all people. Just my really niche, I'm targeting women, but there's definitely information in almost all my episodes for everyone. Now, this morning, as I was preparing and waking up and getting ready, I'm thinking about what to wear. So I chose Mindset is Everything t shirt because I think more than half our battle in life starts right here in our mind. We deal with self sabotage. We deal with negativity from other people. So make sure you're right here to start the day, and that will help combat stress. That is my number one recommendation for all people. Good morning, Ronald. He is joining us from Maryland. Thank you, Ronald. I'm so glad that I can help in any way. Also, do let me know, join in the conversation in the comments. Let me know if you're watching the replay, #replay on any of the platforms you do see or listen to this on. And let me know where you're coming in from. It's nice to know where people are. Another thing I did this morning in preparation was listening to my daily inspirational readings and from Dynamic Catholic with Matthew Kelly. I love it. And today was the gospel reading from Luke chapter 24, verses 13 through 35, the appearance on the road to Emmaus. If you're Christian, you most likely are very familiar with this, at least in summary form. Um, Jesus appeared to two men who were walking and talking about the disappointment that Jesus is no more. When Jesus approached them and started asking them questions, then their eyes were opened. To me, that ties right into your mindset. You need to have your eyes open. Also, that is great for having your eyes and mind open when we're talking about stress. So, just another welcome, my good friend from Finland, Judith. Good afternoon from cold, gray, and busy Finland. And she says hello to everybody. And of course, um, Ronald is familiar and says hello to Judith back. It is kind of great. It's cooler today. It was 84 yesterday. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's it's cooler. Not cold. Doesn't get cold often in Texas, but it's cooler. Anyway, um, so let's go on and talk a little bit about stress and how to navigate stress. So I did in my post talk about what the American Psychological Association's October 2023 Stress in America survey said, and it included a nationally representative sample of more than 3,000 adults. Women reported a higher average level of stress than men. Now, I don't know what the makeup of men to women in this 3,000 sample still seems small to me, but I think it's pretty accurate if you talk to anyone in the world. Anyway, so women reported a higher average level of stress than men. So 5.3 versus men at 4.8 out of 10. Personally, I think both of those are high for stress. And women were more likely to rate their stress levels between an 8 and a 10 than men. So 27% of women rank their stress from an 8 to 10, where only 20% of men. That's only a 6% difference. So I would say the world is full of lots of stress. Anyhow, so another thing is women really feel that no one understands how stressed they are. I think if you're a woman, you can probably relate to that. Um, I know I do. A lot of times I try to keep my struggles to myself until it's an appropriate, like if I'm dealing with a coach, my spouse, or a confidant, then I'll share those things. But outwardly, I really don't show it. A lot of people are the same, but there are also a lot of people who do share everything. So, but that doesn't mean you feel that people understand you just because you share things. So, we're going to talk a little bit about stress triggers and coping mechanisms. And coping mechanisms are strategies that help you deal with stress and uncomfortable emotions. And for some people, uncomfortable emotions are any emotions, but today we're particularly talking about stress. Now, when we think about stress, I think the most known factors of stress for any gender, right, are big life changes. Anything to do with family, death, moving, divorce, getting married, having a baby, um, losing a job, starting a new job. Those are major illnesses. These are all things that are big triggers for any human and every human being. Some of us just can handle the triggers better than others because we have coping mechanisms in place or we have a great support group to help us out. But oftentimes, these stress triggers can lead to things like depression or illness. So, when we're talking about stress and its impact on women's health, you can see a lot of times it's emotionally and mentally draining, which can cause physical reactions, right? And some of these physical reactions are increased heart rates. Your blood pressure can can rise, right? All of a sudden you have higher blood pressure, increased breathing, so it's more shallow instead of deeper, healthier breaths, which is a great coping mechanism. Take a moment to breathe. Increased alertness. We're all of a sudden very aware of everything that's happening. So every little thing starts to set you off, right? Same thing, your senses are heightened. So you're really noticing things more, but not noticing in a good way, noticing in a negative way. Things are impacting you greater in a negative way. Your body will release glucose or sugar into your bloodstream for energy. And another thing, hives. This has happened to me in a number of occasions where I was in a very stressful work environment. I didn't really feel the stress physically. I was internalizing it. I did talk about it to specific people, but could not deal with the cause head on because it was work related. And it was a dynamic in that work environment that truly caused some stress in me. And I, at one time, woke up completely in hives all over my body, including my face. It happened on more than one occasion. And the only common factor was the stress I was under. So, there's other people that have talked about stress. You can find them all over social media. That there's coaches specifically for stress, and they can tell you the devastation that stress can have on your body. And Ronald is sharing an interesting tidbit. A woman has requested euthanasia due to incurable anxiety, depression, and autism. The doctors cannot help her and she can't endure it anymore. And that's very sad. We have a lot of people in the world that are struggling with mental illness, um, with difficulties in life. And like Judith shared on her social media post this morning, there's bullying is causing a lot of negativity and just horrible things. So the world is really full of stress triggers. So the effects that it has on your body, both physically and mentally, it's just devastating to people. If you don't know how to handle it and you don't have the right support group, it can lead to death or it can lead you to cause hurt and harm to other people's as well. Oh, another thing I've noticed in another individual, high stress, red blotchy skin. So if you see someone who has that reaction, they may play it off, but it could be they're dealing with something. So, offer to listen, really talk and listen. When you ask how they're doing and they say fine, you know, ask some questions, but test them out. Don't force people to share if they're not willing to share, if they don't feel comfortable. But yeah, really try to be there for people, especially if you notice any of these symptoms in them. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Ronald. Lack of self-care due to stress can cause a lot of medical issues, diabetes being one of them. And diabetes, the damage from diabetes, once it's done, it is done. And you can make strides to get to a better place with diabetes and manage it. Actually, my father, as an older gentleman, went off his diabetes medication by diet and exercise. So it can be managed, but once the damage is done to your body, my understanding it's already done. Yep, absolutely. Units making a great point about managing emotions. We should be taught that at a young age. Many things we are taught, but often many essentials are missing. Yeah, like finances, right? Finances, emotions, stress, losing, um, emotions are good and needed, often the bad ones too. They have a purpose. Absolutely. Many times, bad emotions are a warning sign for something you need to avoid or to address. But it's important not to dwell in the negativity, but to figure out what's causing it and solve that issue. Definitely. If you look at the world today, so the family unit has changed a lot. Um, to define a family, and I've said this on other episodes, it's really a broad term of what a family dynamic looks like. It can be a husband, a wife, and children. It can be a husband and a wife. It can be two people living together, not married with children. It could be a stepchildren. It could be friends. It could be extended family. Families, there's just like no one definition of family anymore. But I think what's really common, well, one thing, a family, I guess, is maybe more defined as people who love and care for each other. That could be a definition. But where what I understand to be and what I have experienced when I was younger is that many years ago, there was usually at least one parent home with kids as they were being raised. There were family times, right? Family meal times. There was not so many distractions in life. There was more communications among family members. There were more family activities. There were more getting together of friends versus, hey, let's get online and play a game and they chat through a game. Not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but what a lot that's missing is in the human interaction is the touch, right? The hugs. We see that a lot in families. We see that a lot in relationships. We just don't make time anymore. We can't even eat together. We can't eat. You go to a restaurant and hey, my husband and I have been guilty of this and we've called each other out on it. You go out to eat and the first thing that everybody's doing is they got their phones, right? Let's see, there's mine. I'm fine. Anyway, they have their phones out. Instead of having face to face conversation, they're not really interacting. So we don't even know what each other is going through. Right. Ronald bringing up old television shows, Ozzie and Harriet, Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver. Yep. Um, Lots of great shows on families there and family time. But that's very lacking in the world. So we are not being taught um, how to deal with our emotions, and we're not being taught how to be there for each other. And the other thing I think that, I mean, my husband and I have noticed is this whole trophy and rewards for participation, that there's no clear winners. Now, that can be argued both good and bad on both sides, but I think the biggest issue is we're not being taught how to handle losing because in every scenario, someone loses. Now, what that looks like, losing can be, well, I didn't get first place. I didn't finish the race first, but I learned something. And I saw how hard somebody else worked and appreciated that. Now it's like, what do I get? Here's my reward. I don't even have to put forth effort, and I'm rewarded and made to feel like I'm the best thing ever. Not saying we should put people down, but I feel like I'm treading on a fine line here. But we do need to be careful what we're teaching each other on how to live and how to handle things, right? If you're constantly told you need to be number one and win, that instills a lot of stress. Let's throw money into the mix, especially. eh, there's a lot of discussion about the economy. I know here in the US, whether or not it's getting better. There's still a lot of people losing jobs all over the world, still people trying to get jobs, they're unemployed. The stress of not having money, the stress of not being able to financially care for yourself or your loved ones is huge. It's definitely huge. Yes, the child loses and the parent has nothing to brag about. Absolutely, Ronald. How about my child did the best they could do, and my child treated everyone else with dignity and congratulated them. To me, that's brag worthy. Definitely brag-worthy. So when we're looking at all of these things about stress, I want to hone in on some stress triggers for women specifically. And as women, we're really generally, and of course, we're all different, so it's not totally specific to every woman, but in a general sense, we're very relationship focused, right? So a lot of triggers will have to do with relationships, with family. Um, if we're not able to get the love that we need or to give the love we need to give, if we can't spend the time we need with the loved ones, if we can't be there for our children when we need them. Um, I know for me as a working mom, most of my PTO that I earned, I used to be there for my kids when they were sick or had an event at school. It was not used for myself. Now, that causes another stress because there's a lack of self-care there. Work is stressful for women. There's that whole inequality, inequity. It's, am I going to get the raise? Am I going to get the promotion? Am I going to keep my job? Am I going to get my job? There's the societal pressures around work and family. Really, should you be a working mom? If you are a working mom, are you neglecting your family? Are you being able to balance it all? um, Wait a minute, now you're spending too much time with your family and you're neglecting work. And I know this can apply to men as well who are in the same situation. But and if they're having relationship issues, whether it's personal or work related, that causes a lot of stress. Then there's the internal triggers, like I talked about earlier, self sabotage. So there's perfectionism, and later along in, it might be in May or maybe it's later in April, I do talk about perfectionism. We're all striving to be perfect. Well, first of all, people, you need to know no one is perfect and we're all unique. We are not good at everything if we put our mind to it. That's just unrealistic. I don't know who came up with it. I know when I was going to college, we need to be a well rounded student. Why? Why? I wanna know why. What does that instead of perfecting what we're best at, why are we trying to be good at everything? We need to serve our purpose at what we're good at. Forget about perfectionism. If you wanna be perfect, be the best you can be. That'll be perfect. Even with flaws, that'll be perfect. Self-doubt. Oh, so many people are plagued with self-doubt, and it's often fed by other people, external circumstances because we fail. Guess what? You're human. Everybody makes mistakes and everybody fails. It happens. We're human. Whenever I'm training new people in a job, I like to tell them what I like to say. You're new for a year because no matter what anyone can teach you, there's always those one off things, right? There's always something that only happens occasionally. So you're going to be learning for at least a year. So claim it. I'm new. Use it. Not as an excuse to not do something, but to help with understanding. And then there's that term that I really despise, imposter syndrome. I have to include it because the world has embraced it. And that's the feeling that you're not good enough and you don't deserve it. To me, it's not so much imposter syndrome as it is a lack of self confidence and a lack of self knowledge about what your skills and values are. And that really can play a devastating role on you in life. So you have to really, um, I'm going to say, attack it. And when you're recognizing how these things intersect as stress triggers for women, it's much easier to really handle them and know how to handle them. and recognize when it's happening to you. And that's important. Again, you need your eyes open and you need to listen. Sometimes you are feeling stressed and you don't know it, but you can tell by the reactions of others because when we're stressed, we react in a negative manner. So it affects other people negatively. So if all of a sudden when you're normally in an environment that's uplifting and happy and everything around you seems to be going downhill, make sure it's not you that's the cause and how you're acting, causing reactions. The only thing you can truly change is yourself and how you react and do things. So make sure you're not causing that. So I want to talk about coping strategies. I want to make sure that there's some value here in how to deal with stress. And of course, there is strength that you can get from your spiritual beliefs and practices, right? Daily prayer, listening to positivity. There's a lot set for what comes in must come out. So if you're filling your head, your mind, your eyes and ears, and your mouth is a lot of negative crap, right? If you have to cuss all the time because you cannot think of another word to use, there's something else going on. Um, if you're watching a lot of shows about death and sadness, it's going to put you in a bad mood. Watch something uplifting. If you are watching a lot of shows that really have no value, remember what you're filling your mind with. That goes for reading as well, whatever you read. So make sure you're intentional about what you are taking in. So what comes out is more positive. I have a joke, and really there's some seriousness to it, of course, that I usually share with my family and close friends. My husband's a trivia buff, and he is full of useless information. That's what I call it. And I have very little trivia. If there's any games or anything with trivia, I lose because I don't have it. And my joke is if I fill my head with useless stuff, something has to fall out to make room, and I have too much important stuff that I can't keep the useless stuff in. I have to block it out. But that's my joke about that. So think about spiritually your prayer practices. If you're listening to any spiritual podcasts, if you're watching any spiritual shows, reading spiritual books, attending any worship services, and the kind of people that you hang around regularly that they share some of the same spiritual values you have because they'll help lift you up. And make sure you're incorporating mindfulness and meditation into daily routines, right? Remember, mindset is everything. So be mindful of how you're starting your day, being intentional, welcoming that gratitude, giving gratitude, both mentally, verbally, physically, by showing gratitude. And for me, I'm not a huge meditation person. Short and sweet is for me. Um, I'm just not one who can sit still for long periods of time. Using positive intelligence, I'm able to do it longer. And if you're interested in that at all, just reach out and I can help you with that. But really, building your mental fitness will help you in that area of meditation and being mindful, right? Cultivate your resilience again through prayer, gratitude, and self reflection. Take the time to be grateful. Take the time to pray. Take the time to self reflect. And what does that mean? That means think about you can both start and end your day with thinking about and reflecting on. So if you can start your day, you can either reflect on the day before or you can be intentional about how to go about your day. And at the end of the day, reflecting on what has passed, not dwelling on the negative, but dwelling on the positive and the opportunity. Do recognize things because remember that when we fail, it's a first attempt in learning. Yeah, so I'm going to share. Ronald says, I'm dumping years of job, relegated materials, and learning how to be an individual person. Yeah, sadly, we're more encouraged to join in than be individuals. We're more encouraged to fit a mold than to share our real value. And that can start at home. And since I've learned this as an older parent, all my kids were already grown, I'm encouraging my children with children to really look at what their kids' gifts are and to nurture them instead of shutting them down. We want to nurture them and aim them into a positive. And as adults, we can still do that because many times we haven't. Let's recognize what's good and right about us and aim that to help us be happier and healthier and to help us conquer stress. You also want to remember to leverage your community support and mentorship within your faith communities. So, there are a lot of resources for us out there. We have communities like these social media platforms where we meet people. We meet on Zoom meetings. We can set up meetings in person. We can do group meetings. We can do individual meetings. We have our faith communities that often offer support groups as well as your general community offer support groups, or just social gatherings where you can, guess what? Be you. Be you. Live who you are. Don't let stress overtake you. Remember, um, some other tools, these are practical tools for coping. Those were kind of more spiritual, which I hope that you can incorporate, but also just regular practical tools for coping with stress, time management techniques, right? We need to learn time management. And hey, sometimes we get it down and sometimes we don't. And many times we need to just start over or revamp it. Sometimes we set up our time management into a schedule that works, and then later something shifts and we need to alter it. That's fine. That's not a failure. That's adapting, and we need to adapt. Setting up boundaries. So important. And that's something as I'm getting older, I'm getting better at because I'm getting to know myself and learning myself more through coaching, through learning, through programs. I've really learned about myself and who I am and what I allow other people to do. Yeah, I'm allowing it. So I have learned to stop. I've learned to set boundaries and I've learned to say no. That will be a big help in coping with stress. When you are in the midst of huge stress, take a look around. What is causing it? What can be prevented? What can be stopped? And then take action. Prioritize your self care. Many times as women, we put our self care last, especially if we have families or significant others. We often will dote on them first. And there's nothing wrong with that, but don't forget yourself. Make time, set aside time. And if you're a big offender of lacking in self care, start small, make it something manageable. You don't want to start out with a big goal and then fail because then that will just cause more stress and more self sabotage. So start small. Think about what it is that you truly enjoy doing, that helps you to relax, whether it be a walk, reading, listening to music. If you have to, lock yourself in the bathroom, take a bath, you know, do whatever's necessary to really invoke that self care. Self-care also includes exercise, and I'm probably, ah, um, a pretty big offender in lack of exercise. I'm pretty good at when I go to the grocery store, I park far away, so I get in those extra steps, but really regular exercise I'm lacking. So make sure you're getting exercise because it's good for your heart. Exercise helps with the stress because it releases endorphins, which helps fight those feelings. Take a look at your nutrition. Are you eating well? Are you staying hydrated? It is okay to have treats, right? But don't make treats your diet. And a diet is defined as everything you eat. So everyone is on a diet. Don't use diet as a restriction because that's just going to cause more issues and probably increase your stress levels as you stress about what your intake is. Awesome, Ronald. I'm going to stop and look at some comments. So, his wife Deborah spoke into their child, kept an open door. Her gifts and talents encouraged and supported, and that's absolutely needed as our kids are growing and molding and developing. Um, and yes, boundaries. No, self care. Um, Ronald encourages his wife to consider her needs and not overdo it. That's that's excellent. If you have someone in your life who definitely leaves themselves out, you need to support them and encourage them. And at the same point, make sure you're not neglecting yourself because it's very easy to get wrapped up into someone else. Definitely. Sleep is very, very important. Sleep is where your body restores, refreshes, and regenerates your mind, your tissues, everything. You need good sleep. There's definitely enough apps out there where you can track your sleep, set timers, figure out what works best for you. There's lots of advice out there, but again, we're all different people. For me, my sweet spot is 7 hours. If I get too much sleep, I feel like crap and can't function. And same if I don't get enough sleep. Um, so make sure that your sleep is quality sleep and you're getting the proper amount. The world is hard. The world is hard. Seek professional help when you need it. This is not something to be embarrassed about. Stress is real. It can lead to very harmful things. It can do a lot of physical and mental damage. Different forms of professional help, therapy, counseling, support groups, coaching. Those are, and when we're talking about coaching, there's such a variety, right? You can get a coach for your exercise habits. You can get a coach to help you deal with stress. You can get a coach to help you with nutrition. There's You can get a coach to help you with your mindset. You can get a coach to help you with who you are. And also, I'm going to throw in there just regular medical help, right? When you're starting to see physical damage to your body, like diabetes and things, you need to see a medical professional. Make sure you find somebody who you click with in any of those formats, someone who can understand what you're going through and help guide you and really listens to you because no one knows you or your body better than you do. So remember that. And you will be your biggest advocate in fighting stress and what stress can do to your body. Always encourage open communication. And I encourage you to openly communicate with someone that you trust and get guidance from someone you trust. Seek mentors in different areas where you need help that you can openly trust and speak to. So, those are my tips for stress. Stress is real, stress is damaging, stress is relevant. I've shared a lot of the ways stress is relevant for women. It also applies to a lot of men. But come on, people, we need to take care of ourselves because if something happens to us, we can't take care of other people either. And if that's the reason you need to take better care of yourself, then use that. So I wish all of you a beautiful day. Seek out ways to eliminate stress or at least minimize what stress does to you. Hold on to your faith, hold on to your mindset, practice intentionality and gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. If you're watching on the replay, thank you so much for doing that. If you find value, please like and share. Thank you so much. I appreciate every one of you. Have a beautiful day.